Okay, I'm going to go through a few of those licks that you just heard in that solo in quite a bit of depth here. I picked 3 that I think are the best licks from that solo. Like with all the lessons that I have coming out going forward, you can go to my site and get the black belt version of this lesson. And what that means is that you get that full solo at the beginning, all the notation in interactive video. So you're able to slow down sections, play selections, loop sections over and over again, and you also get a backing track too. Backing track's really important, whether you get it through my site or whether you get it somewhere else. For all these licks, you should really be, after you learn them, be practicing them with a backing track. You can get all the mechanics of the licks down, you can play them with a metronome, but until you actually know how to play that lick in the context of a song, you don't really know it. So that's really what you have to do for everything you take away from these licks. Practice with a backing track, learn that lick in the context of a song, and really only then do you really understand how to play the lick. Again, go check out my site if you want to get the full solo for that and get the backing track as well. So for the licks here, I'm going to go over 3 of them like I said. I picked ones that I thought were pretty challenging and have some really unique concepts or techniques inside them. So I'm going to break them down, and I'm also going to give some ideas for exercises and how to develop the techniques required to play these licks. So that's it. Let's get into the licks. Here's the first lick. All right, so there's the first lick. The big takeaways for this one, it's a fairly challenging lick to play. We're basically in E minor pentatonic, E minor blues scale. And I use a lot of scales in this lesson. There's a couple licks here in the lesson that are like in Mixolydian scale and have different notes in them. So quite a variety of scales used here. This one's pretty stock, E minor blues, E minor pentatonic lick. The difficult part is the timing. So if you notice in the notation there, we got a group of 3 and a group of 6. Those are 16th note triplets. So those are at that 16th note triplet speed. And then you have a group of 7. And then following that, a group of 32nd notes. So that's the challenging part of this lick, is that it's not consistent speed all the way through. You have these really odd timings. So getting that phrasing down is what takes practice here. So let me play through it one time, just kind of slowly, and talk about the technique first, and then after that I'll talk about how to get the timing down. So starting up on the G note on the 3rd string here, just hammering up to the 12th. Nothing really too technical there. The next part is that 6th note run right there. So pull off 15 to 12. Basically, we're climbing up and then back down, then back up. So it's all those notes are played at that same speed. Pretty basic. Now the next part, when we get up to the top on the E note on the 1st string there, we go into this descending run, this 7-note run, and there's a couple tricky, it's all pull-offs, but there's a couple tricky things to point out. So just climbing down from the top of the E minor pentatonic scale, or blues scale rather, because we have the blues note here. We just pull off 15, 12, 15, 12. Land on the 15th on the 3rd string. That's the blues note. If it was just the E minor pentatonic scale, I'd be landing on the A note here, the 2nd fret, or the 14th fret on the 3rd string. But I'm landing on 1 fret up. That means it's the the flat fifth, right? The flat fifth is what makes a scale the blues scale. It's called why they call it the blues note. So here's the tricky part of the lick. After you hit the 15th on the third string, you go back up to the 15th on the second string, so it's a little bit of a roll. In the pick there too, if you've watched a lot of my lessons before, you know I always talk about economy picking and use economy picking where it's appropriate, and here is a place where it's appropriate. Because we're going from a lower string to a higher string, it's much easier to, rather than alternate pick, like do a downstroke than an upstroke, it's much more efficient to do two downstrokes. Much more efficient. So watch that pick. When you go from the 15th and the third to the 15th and the second, downstroke, downstroke. And then just pull off to the 12. So and then the last little bit there, we're just sliding down from the blues note to the 14th, pulling off, and then 14, 12. So that's just the mechanics of the lick, the picking hand, and in the left hand. So the important part, again, is the timing and being able to transition to between 6 and 7 notes between a beat. And to be perfectly honest, when I put together licks like this, I've played this style of lick so many times that I can kind of adjust the speed up and down sort of subconsciously and make it land on notes that I'm trying to land on. So I'm not necessarily thinking when I play this, I want to play 6 notes between this beat and seven notes between the next beat and 30-second notes after that. I've played this type of lick long enough and often enough where I kind of make that speed transition pretty subconsciously. But that being said, it's a really good idea to practice playing between rhythms, transitioning between the 16th note triplets, 8th notes triplets, 16ths and 30-second notes. Just go between those different speeds. So what I might do there, what I do in this case, I'd practice that 16th note lick, the 6-note pattern by itself. Until I got that down, just playing straight 16th note triplets. And then I would practice the 7-note pattern. So when I'm playing that second, I'm just making sure that I'm hitting 7 notes in between a beat. So all you do to practice that 7-note section is break it out by itself. So you're practicing it by itself, and make that 7-note section just land perfectly on the beat. If you play with a metronome, you'll get the feel for it pretty quick. So just 7 notes between a beat. So once you got those down separately, once I got the 16th note down, and then once I got the 7 pattern down, I would begin to start working on transitioning between them. So in other words, I'd play the 16th note a few times, the 16th note triplet a few times, and then I would play the group of 7 a few times. So it might sound something like this. Something like that. I don't have a metronome on, so I'm probably not nailing the timing absolutely perfect there, but I think that gives you the idea of how to do this. Great exercise, probably something I should do myself more often. But getting that feeling down, transitioning between the rhythms is a really powerful tool. Gives you a much better sense of rhythm and will actually help your technique too. One thing I've realized as I've been really trying to get my technique a lot better. Oftentimes the problems with your technique and your inability to play things isn't so much your physical ability, it's your sense of rhythm and being able to hit notes perfectly in time. It's come to me that's often the case for me, where if I can't play something, it's not so much that I can't move the pick fast enough, it's that my sense of rhythm is off playing certain things. So long story short, practicing that transition between rhythms is a really good thing to do. So that's it. So that's my takeaway for how I would practice that lesson or that lick. So let's play it through one more time at a slow speed. All right, there's the next lick, and this is obviously a very legato lick. We're only picking when we're switching strings here. Everything is hammers and pulls, so totally legato. This is in basically E mixolydian because we have the major third in there. So that's the dead giveaway in a mixolydian scale. We got the flat 7, or right there rather, and in the major third. So E mixolydian, that group of notes with the major third and the flat 7th. So I kind of use a really similar pattern as I'm going up here. I start off with just hammering on 3 notes. Really basic, starting on the 6th fret on the 4th string. Again, that's the major third of E, the G sharp. And hammer up 3 notes. And then I get up to the 6th fret on the 3rd string, hammer on to the 9th, pull back to the 6th, and then 7, 9. It's a 5-note pattern. So that first 8 notes at 30-second notes sounds like this. That's the pattern. Now, I really like that pattern. I like it because it's not a really straight, even group of notes all the way up. It's not like, the really kind of boring, basic, really even pattern up the neck. The 5-note pattern makes it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more unpredictable when you're listening to it. So I like practicing that 5-note pattern. So if I were to do that just on those first 2 strings, the 4th string and the 3rd string, that pattern in the E mixolydian scale, it would sound like this. And when we get up to the next position in the E minor, or the E mixolydian scale here, we're on the 7th fret now. Basic same idea, 5-note pattern. And I break away from it at the tail end of this part. But that's basically the same thing when I get up there. And then I slide up to the 14th and bend up. And then some basic E minor pentatonic stuff up there from there. So what I'm going to leave you with here is an exercise, and one that I think you'll like. So I would practice 3-note per string scales this way, and I would just practice that legato pattern. It will build legato strength, and you can pull some really good licks out of this pattern like this one here. So I would pick a scale, and let's just pick the E mixolydian here, since that's what we're working with. So I would just go up the scale in that 5-note pattern. I would just do that over and over again, that really basic pattern. So that's going to work on your, a few things. It's going to work on your physical dexterity, just getting the comfortable with legato going up the neck. It's also good practice for understanding where your scales are, where your 3-note per string scales are. So really like this lick, really flexible. I find that I can take this basic idea and use it in a lot of different ways. So I would recommend practicing that. So that's it. That's the breakdown. Let's play this through one more time at a slow speed. All right, so this is one of my favorite repeating style licks. And instead of just showing you the lick, I'm going to show you the repeating pattern that I use so much. And this lick is really based on that pattern. So here's the pattern. Again, I'm not going to start at the beginning of the lick. I want to show you the pattern first. Starting on the 12th fret on the first string. And then we're obviously in E minor pentatonic here. Hammer on, pull off. And then 15 on the second string. And then I'm going to descend down 12, 15, 12. And then climb back up. 14 on the third string, and then 15 on the second string. So the whole pattern, I think of it as a 9-note pattern. Because those 4 right there, right, that's 4 notes. And then the next 5-note pattern is this. That's the pattern that I like so much. So I practice that little pattern a lot. I speed it up or down, and I use it in different positions. You know, I could use it in, God, anywhere. You know, that's the nice thing about the pentatonic scale, is that there's 2 notes on every single string of it. So you can take patterns like this, and it's easy to translate into other positions along the neck. So repeating licks are fantastic for that in the pentatonic scale. But that's the thing that I practice so much. So also a really good picking exercise, because look at that last part. You could technically economy pick it, but I'm actually alternate picking it though. So I'm doing downstroke on the 15th when I get to the second string, upstroke on the 12th when I get to the first, downstroke, and then when I do 14, I do down, I do 15 up, and then 12 down. So it's a really unique kind of picking pattern. So I think a great exercise for that too. So that's the foundation. That's what I base this lick on, is that pattern. But I obviously stray away from it. You know, I'm playing this in a real song here, so I don't stick to that pattern 100%. So now let's go through the actual lick itself. So starting up on a 16th note triplet. And then we get into 30-second notes from there. So there's that pattern, right? I'm starting at a different point in that pattern, but again, it's based on that lick that I showed you. So descending down like that, the first 8 notes, then we do. You could just do that over and over again and you get the essence of the lick. So in any case, that's the first 8 notes. The next 8 notes is and then on the next 8-note pattern we have, and on this next part I stray away. I go like this. I skip a string. And instead of, I just skip that 15th note. So it's the same pattern, but I just basically skip that second string 15th fret. So so I just take out that one note. But other than that, it's the same exact pattern all the way through. So I just took out the 15th fret in one instance, and that kind of mixed it up a little bit. You know, it's not the same all the way through. Make it kind of interesting, right? So that's it. And then we end on the 15th bending up. So again, my recommendations for this lesson, try this repeating lick and play it at different places along the scale. It's a fantastic exercise. And that will give you the essence of the lick. And maybe try to do what I did here, which is play through the lick, but maybe try and take out one note here and there. So you can kind of do that all day. Once you get that pattern, it's a flexible thing. You can kind of mix it around anywhere, any position, any scale, any pentatonic scale anyway. So that's it. That's a lick. Let's play through it one more time at a slow speed.